So here's another method for creating a set of parallel lines based off a given line and a point. So this is our alternate interior angles method, and it's based on the idea that if alternate interior angles are congruent, then the intersected lines must be parallel. Alright, so our basic idea here is that if I have my line and a point, if I can create a transversal and then create angles that are in alternate interior position, right? So alternate opposite sides and interior in between the intersected lines, then the new line created will be parallel to the original line. Okay, so alternate interior angles, this is what we're shooting for. Alright, so our step one here then is to construct transversal T. And so I'll go ahead and do all these steps on step 4 so you can see them. So this is my step 1, is to construct this transversal line. And it can go anywhere. I typically try to make it so that it's not perpendicular to the original line, because then sometimes it's hard for me to tell which angle should be copied. So I like having it at a little bit of an angle, but the exact angle doesn't matter. That's transversal line T. Next, step 2 is to copy angle A to point P. Now, angle A is, or point A is down here. Of course, there are a whole bunch of different angles at that point, but we're going to specifically be copying this acute angle that's on the interior of where the eventual intersected lines will be. Okay, so going from point A, setting my compass and making a mark. Now, I can make this as big or small as I want, but if I make it too big, you can see that this is going to start overlapping with the other one here. And that might make things a little bit more confusing. So I recommend setting this distance to less than half the distance between points A and P, right? And that way the two angles won't overlap each other. This also is not a great technique if P is really close to line L. This is not the best technique to use. So it's better when P is where the point is pretty far away from the line. So again, setting my compass to be a little bit on the smaller side here and creating an arc, and then immediately turning my compass around and matching that from point P to this alternate interior position. And making sure that this arc that I make, the copied arc, is long enough coming up here so that it'll catch the line that comes through later, right? If I make it too short and it won't catch the line, that won't really help me. Step 3 then is to continue step 2, and so I'm going to measure across the angle from here to here to create this mark. So it might be helpful to identify my 2 points where they are crossing, these arcs are crossing the transversal, and I'm going to measure from this point down to here and make a mark. I then want to come to this point and make a matching mark. So that was step 3. Step 2 continued, which is copying the angle. And then step 4 is to just finish copying the angle by using these 2 points. And we could call that line M, which means that we will know that line M is parallel to line L. And if you want, we talked about that you could put on some marks on your lines to indicate that they are in fact parallel. Though this is not required, just an option.